there have been many, many things that people have done. You're like, wow, good exists in the world. There is still good. So we know both those things are real things. We just don't know what's the root of them all. And are there really angels and demons, or are those the scapegoat?
Across scorched deserts, rugged mountains, and crumbling ruins, the remains of something unimaginable still stand. Structures far too massive, too perfect, and too ancient to make sense, like this massive stone pillar whose purpose no one knows.
Most scholars believe that during the quarrying, this pillar was cracked and hence it was deserted and left on location and never got to the Temple Mount or to the near church.
But before that, let's see these perfect, mysterious rings. That can't be the work of any human. In the heart of the Golan Heights lies a structure so ancient, it almost looks like it should not exist. Locals know it as Rujm el-hiri, but some legends refer to it as the Wheel of the Giant. If you look at it from above, you can see a perfect set of concentric stone rings, 5 huge circles made of basalt boulders that weigh tons. There are no records detailing how it was built, and no civilization claims it as its own.
On the one hand, it's very hard to identify it, to understand when it was built. On the other hand, anyone can tell anything.
Still, it's there, perfectly lined up with the sunrise on the summer solstice. Archaeologists say this place goes back to at least 5000 BCE, even older than the pyramids and Stonehenge. But what was it even made for? There are a bunch of theories. Some think it could have been a burial site, a celestial calendar, or maybe even a fortress, but none of those really explain how massive it is. Some of the stones are so heavy that even today's machinery struggles to budge them. The outer ring is nearly 160 meters across. Inside, there are chambers with passageways that seem way too big for just a person. Some researchers have also pointed out the local myths about giants.
Rephaim was a nation that was living here in the area, in the Bashan. They were counted as giant, and they were counted in their name. We have 3 levels of things. One level, Rephaim, is from the word ripui, healing. Another level is Rephaim, and in the shadows, people beyond this life. And another thing was Rephaim is that when you saw a giant like the Rafa, you become refu, you become with less power.
Those ancient stories call them mighty men of old. There are no inscriptions, no tools lying around, and no clear idea of where it all came from. It's like Rujm el-hiri was built by hands that we've either forgotten or were never meant to know about. But the Wheel of the Giant is not the only clue hidden in stone. Just northwest of Aleppo, Syria, you'll find the ruins of Ain Dara Temple, an ancient place that has a pretty similar layout to Solomon's Temple. Its foundations sit on a man-made mound, and the entrance is flanked by what used to be towering columns. You can still see reliefs of lions, cherubs, and mythical creatures on the basalt walls, giving off a vibe from a time when this place was really impressive. Back in 1955, a huge basalt lion was also discovered, which appeared after many years of digging. By 1985, experts had figured out how important the site really was. But one thing stood out above everything else: a pair of giant footprints carved right into the stone floor. Each one is nearly a meter long, perfectly lined up with the central altar, as if showing where a gigantic being once stood during rituals. These footprints are definitely not just for decoration. Their size suggests a figure over 60 feet tall. There aren't any inscriptions explaining them, and there aren't any tool marks that would give clues about who made them. The official story calls them symbolic, but why go through the trouble of carving symbols to match a giant's stride? Were these footprints made by the builders of the temple? If that's the case, the strength it took to lift those massive stones wouldn't seem so far-fetched. The temple is quiet now, and those prints are still there. But what if their legacy was not only carved in stone, but built into entire cities? In southern Israel, buried under layers of dust, a massive gateway was discovered, much bigger than what you'd expect for regular people. At Tel Es-Safi, the ancient city of Gath, archaeologists found what's being called the Goliath Gate. With huge stone thresholds and towering walls, it's on a scale that's way beyond anything in nearby cities. This isn't just any gate. It seems designed to welcome someone of extraordinary size. They pulled some pottery fragments from the ruins with encoded inscriptions spelling out the name Goliath. Scholars think this name might have been common in the area, but the gate's size hints at something more, maybe a city built for someone way beyond the average human height. If we read the scriptures, it tells us Gath was home to a champion taller than 9 feet, a warrior whose spear was as thick as a weaver's beam. Goliath, the giant who faced a young shepherd in battle, came from a lineage that predates Israel's kings. There are also ancient texts that talk about the Nephilim, a race of giants born from mixed bloodlines, referred to as mighty men of old. Goliath was said to be one of them, a remnant from a time when giants roamed the earth. Now, Gath's stones are quiet, but the gate stands tall, a reminder of a being whose presence is still felt in both history and myth. Right in the middle of Jerusalem's old city, there's this huge stone pillar that's been sitting in a quarry for ages. The locals call it Etba Og, or the Finger of Og.
The Jerusalemites nicknamed this pillar Etzba Og, the finger of Og, the biblical king of Basan.
It's carved from one massive block, and its size is beyond comprehension, like it was meant for a palace made for something way bigger than humans. Scholars debate whether it was meant for Herod's temple or an old Byzantine church, but its nickname sticks around, linked to the mysterious figure of Og, king of Bashan. The Bible mentions Og as the last of the Rephaim, these giants who used to roam the ancient Levant. He even had an iron bed that, according to Deuteronomy, was over 13 feet long. Some people think it's all just a myth, but old traditions say that some of his belongings are still out there, artifacts too massive for ordinary folks to handle. This lonely pillar isn't the only one. There are mentions of giant stones and tools found in Bashan's highlands, all said to be from Og's rule. We've got stones that seem impossible to move and a bed way too large for anyone to use, pieces of a forgotten history intertwined with sacred ground. And if Og actually existed, then giants didn't just roam the earth, they built it too. High up in the Golan Heights sits a fortress that seems impossible, like it's too incredible to be built by just human hands. The remnants of Nimrod Fortress spread out over a steep ridge, with its huge walls that seem to defy gravity and logic. Among these ruins are colossal stones dubbed the Nimrod stones, some weighing in at hundreds of tons and fitted together so perfectly that even today's engineers scratch their heads in confusion. There are stories linking this spot to Nimrod, a legendary hunter from ancient texts, often seen as the first great king after the flood. Some say he was more than just a man, maybe even one of the giants trying to reach the heavens. Could these massive stones be leftover pieces of that grand ambition? Every block is smooth and shows no signs of tools or chisel marks, leaving no clues about how they were shaped. Getting such gigantic stones up these tricky mountain paths would challenge modern technology. And yet, here they sit perfectly aligned, as if placed there by hands that knew no limits. Archaeologists say parts of the fortress are from the Crusader times, but those foundational stones, they're way older, way too old. Who put them there, and why does the silence around them feel so intentional? If there's any truth to Nimrod's legend, then these stones aren't just ruins. They might be warnings from a time of giants, still keeping an eye on things from high above. In the dry deserts of Saudi Arabia, there's an old city carved right into the rock, place seemingly meant for beings way beyond us. Madain Saleh, which was called el-hiri back in the day, is a graveyard filled with massive tombs. These towering structures jut out from sandstone cliffs, each detailed with incredible designs, and the entrances are way taller than anything we're used to. What puzzles archaeologists isn't just how beautiful they are, it's the sheer size of them. The doorways are way above regular human height, and the chambers go deep into the rock. And inside some of the chambers, the ceilings are so high they seem designed for giants. The tombs are from the Nabateans, the same people who created Petra, but locals share older stories about a lost tribe who were wiped out by divine anger. Ancient texts talk about the Thamud, who supposedly lived here long before, leaving behind structures that outlasted them. The tools that might have shaped these impressive facades are still missing. The official history can't explain why they're so enormous. Just a lot of guesses. Were these giant tombs just symbolic, or were they ever meant for those who really were taller than us? Some of these ancient artifacts might stay buried forever, but others might resurface when we least expect them. If you want more stories like these, subscribe and stay close because the next dive might be even stranger.